Hey there, my name's Crypto. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build this house dedicated for all of your enchanting needs. It's super compact, but still has enough space for tons of storage, anvils, a grindstone, and really anything else that you need for enchanting. And these are all the required materials that we'll need to build this enchanting house together. To begin the build, we're going to follow this layout that's in the top right of the screen right now, and build up 3 high walls using some cobblestone. And instead of your typical block by block tutorial, I instead thought it would be fun to kind of talk about my build process as well as some of my creative ideas behind this build. So before beginning any build really, I usually have some sort of general direction or idea that I want to go for, and for this build I wanted to make something that was resource friendly, super small, wouldn't take up a lot of space in the world, but still had enough kind of space inside for all of your enchanting, storage, anvils and stuff for combining different things. So that was kind of my idea behind that. And right now what you're noticing is I'm doing some texture variation, mixing in some andesite with the cobblestone, and that's just going to add some variety to the walls, make them look a little less flat, even though they are all on that same kind of layer of blocks, if that makes sense. It just adds some interest and detail to the build, which would otherwise be missing, and it's a super easy thing that you can do to really any build. And now we're moving on to kind of the front entrance of this build, and I'm doing this 1 block forward to the rest of the walls just to kind of give it some extra depth and interest which it would otherwise be missing. So I'm doing this using some spruce, a lot of different spruce variants, slabs, stairs, trapdoors, all of that good stuff. And I absolutely love using spruce. It's such a versatile block, can be used for basically any build, and it looks like it's right at home. And of course, spruce is such an easy resource to get in the early game. As long as you have access to some spruce saplings, you can just grow those 2x2 spruce trees, super tall ones, just cut them down and you've got wood for days. And I think that's something that's super convenient for these starter structures that you need for kind of gearing up. An enchanting table is something that you really want to have in the early game. It's kind of one of those first things that's going to help you really advance in the game. So that's why I like making these structures using just simple resources that are easy to gather. You're not going to have to really go through a lot of pain or trouble to gather them up. Now we're kind of moving on to the side of the house here, and we're just adding some simple support beams to add some detail as well as make the structure look more structurally sound. So I think it's really nice just kind of adding some simple supports, some little arches there, and it kind of makes it look like it's actually going to support the roof a little bit later on once we start building that. And moving to the back of the house here, we're basically mirroring what we did on the front, but just switching it up a little bit, modifying it, because we don't actually have an entrance on this side. And that's actually kind of a tip that I want to give you guys, is if you don't really know how to detail a wall or anything really, you can look at what you've done previously in that build or a different build that you've done, and just kind of modify it to make it work for the particular build that you're working on. And something that I added to this build that I really liked was adding these flowering azalea bushes to the front and the back of the house, and really it just adds a nice little pop of color that kind of adds a little highlight, because we have all this spruce and stone blocks kind of going on, that it really adds a nice pop of color and helps the build look a little less boring, when really, just a little detail like that doesn't really require a lot of resources, a lot of time to do, but it just adds that little touch that just makes the build look so much better. And as we're finishing up these support beams on the other side here, it's going to be time to start working on the roof. And I decided to build this roof using some dark oak, as well as some spruce, as you'll see a little bit later on. And what I'm using is actually a combination of stairs and slabs. And this to me just adds a bit more interest than just using stairs or just using slabs. It creates kind of this unique arch that you otherwise wouldn't get. And of course it's personal preference, even myself sometimes I like that consistency of just using stairs or just using slabs, so you have that nice consistent slope. But for this build I thought I'd go for something a little bit more interesting but still really easy and simple to build, and in the end I really like how it came out. And as I mentioned earlier, adding the support beams, you can kind of see how the roof sort of comes off of that, and it looks like those support beams are supporting the roof now, which is something that I think looks really nice, adds a bit of realism to this build. And I'm no engineer or anything like that, but I think it still looks really nice. So as we're finishing this roofline here, I wanted to ask you guys a quick question, and that's what sort of tutorials or builds would you like to see from this channel? I read every single comment, so if there's something that you guys want me to build, just let me know down below and I will definitely read that and see what I can do about making a video for it. I'm also really interested in hearing if you guys like this video format. of showing you guys how to build something, but also talking about my creative process and design behind the build. Personally, I think it's super fun, so I definitely want to do more in the future. And if you guys want to see that as well, definitely let me know by liking the video, dropping a comment telling me to make some more, and I'll get on that super soon. So as you've noticed for the roof, I'm using a different color for the inside than I did for the outline of the roof. And this is something that I do with probably most of my builds nowadays, because I think it looks really nice to kind of have this contrast of color between the outline and the inside of the roof. And it just helps add some interest to the house, but of course it's personal preference. Even myself sometimes I like to leave it all one solid color. So now we're going to move on to the inside of the build. And for the floor, I'm just using some oak, some stripped there for kind of a border going into the house, and then I'm just going to fill the rest in with some planks. And I use oak for a lot of my floors because using a lighter color for the inside actually makes the space appear bigger. Apparently, I don't know, I'm not a genius in color theory and that kind of thing, but from what I've heard, using lighter colors helps make an area look bigger. If you use dark colors, it's going to make it look a little bit more smaller, kind of cozier, but sometimes it can also look a little bit cramped. And then I decided to just use some spruce again for the ceiling. Looks really nice, and we can just add one lantern to the top and it's actually going to light up this whole space because it's pretty small. And then now we're going to start adding our details. So we've got the bookshelves here. This enchanting table will give you a level 30 enchants, and I've also just added a little crafting table right there. It's super convenient. You can basically access it from anywhere in the house. And then of course we are adding our chests because you've got to have some storage for all of your books, previously enchanted tools that you kind of want to combine together maybe in the future. And you could add whatever you want up here, but I just decided to add some flowers, add a bit of life. And then on the outside here, if you're worried about like a creeper or something sneaking up on you, you can also add a little bit of a gate. And with that, the build is done. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful. And if you did, it would mean a lot to me if you liked the video, as it really helps out my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy building.